case study. We are talking about a virtual wine, and inside this study there are the environmental performances of a sparkling wine and of a still wine, right? And as in the LCA methodology, we need they need to establish their boundaries, the boundaries of the study itself, and the phase that they are checked. They are studied: grape production, winemaking, package and distribution to retail, and consumption and end of life. As you can see, in the blue letters refer to input, and the yellow ones to outputs. The purple cell is related to the excluded processes. You can exclude something, you just write the reason you decided to exclude some processes instead of others. Inside the grape production phase, which is concerning agricultural phase, these are the processes included and analyzed. As you can see, there are vine plant, land preparation, development of nourishing, and pests and disease management, and all the others. As concern winemaking process, these are the process that are included in the study: transportation of grapes from vineyards to the winery, then transportation of wine must to the winery producing wine, and so on. Then the recleaning operation, waste management, and then inside this study, the level of control of the company has specified, and they prepared this table in which there is a life cycle stage that are the same we saw in the previous slides: grape production, winemaking, packaging, distribution, and then there are the other use and end of life. Then there is the process that are the subject of the study: the system, foreground or background. So if there is something before the company or after the company, and data requirements. So all the requirements that data needs to possess to give a special quality to the study. And then in this study, they identify the situation because the process can be inside the company, which is applying the category rules, or maybe the process is not inside the company, but the company can influence it and can receive, can access to specific information. And then there are situations for which the process does not run inside the company, and the company does not have any access to specific information. Then there are the other two: consumption and end of life. Then this is the phase of collecting data and model the system. And this is similar to our calculator. So they specified the data acquired, So, for example, vineyard surface, number of plants, grape production, yields, year of plantation, and try to imagine our data inside our calculator, right? And so for this is general data, for example, dimension of our school, name of our school, number of students, number of staff, and something else. Then vine plants, nursery planting, all the categories and the units, the measure units, and the comments. For example, I need to collect data, or these data are not available, or a specified type of data, and so on. This phase of collecting data is concerning grape production, and this one is concerning winemaking process and packaging, and each phase has its tables with all the data required. And these are, for example, the results of this first study. We are talking about a virtual product. As you can see, and as I said, there is no name of a specific wine or no name of a specific organization, but we have a product with a specific characteristics, okay? Sparkling wine with the identified characteristics, or a still wine with particular characteristics. And these are the results of the all the indicators that are calculated within the environmental footprint, and they are the same we can find inside the calculator. And as you see, the different colors are referred to the different phases of the entire process: grape production, winemaking, packaging, distribution and retail, consumption, and end of life. And as you can say that each indicator has different values depending on which kind of parameters we are measuring. So this is for a virtual still wine, and this is for a virtual sparkling wine. Okay. After achieving this, after presented all the results we achieved, we need to identify the hotspots, and after the identification of these hotspots, we can say to our company, right, this is the problem, or these are the problems, and this is the phase you can improve, or this is the auxiliary product you can change, or for example, this is the quantity of energy you can save in this particular instruments, and something like that. This kind of analysis is called hotspot identification, and there are four types of analysis: relevant impact category and relevant life cycle stage, and these categories are relevant for external communication. Then there are relevant process and relevant elementary flow to identify, and this kind of considerations are relevant for decision making in data requirements. Then if you value all these three kind of categories. You have the hotspots, and the hotspots are relevant for internal decision making at company level. For example, design for environment. So depending on which one you choose, you can identify the information to for external communication, for decision making in data requirements, or for internal decision making. And how can we change, like how can we choose the relevant impact category? So the procedure is to identify the most relevant impact categories, shall be based on the normalized and weighted results. So we have to normalize the results we achieved and to weighted them. And then each technical secretariat will select the impact categories that they consider more relevant in terms of communication purposes. In this phase are not, I mean, possible for our calculators. I mean that there is not a technical secretariat that will select the impact categories, but just all the partners, when we will have all the results, can select together the impact categories that they consider more relevant. And this is the relevant life cycle stage. This is another hotspot identification, and how to identify the relevant LCA stages. Well, just to we have to consider all life cycle stages, which together contribute over 80% to any of the baseline impact. So if I am a company which produces wine, sparkling wine, well, I have to make a screening at the beginning of the study, and concerning all my life cycle, of the life cycle of my product. And then I have to consider all the stages of this process, which together contributes over than 80%. I can not consider only the stages which are in the remaining 20%. And I just start from the largest contributions and go to the smallest one. And any technical secretariat can add more life cycle stages to the list of the most relevant ones, but they cannot delete any of the most relevant life cycle stages. So when they will check all the studies presented, they can decide to consider another one additional stages that was not considered in the study, but they cannot delete any of them. So what does it mean? It means that this is the indicators that I calculated: acidification, climate change, grape resource depletion, water, resource depletion, mineral, fossil, and so on. This is all the life cycle stages I have considered. And this is the process, and these are the contributions for each process and for each life cycle stage. For example, I can, then I have to to summarize all of them, and I can not consider only the one that together make the 20% of the entire contribution. Then you can see the comparison between the contribution for still wine and contribution for sparkling wine, considering these indicators: resource depletion, ecotoxicity for aquatic freshwater, human toxicity, no cancer effects, resource depletion, water, particulate matter, acidification, climate change. These are the values. And I mean, these are the consideration of the technical secretariat. So you can just put a comparison. And this is the sensibility analysis I talked about some minutes ago. What does it mean? It means that I have to change something and calculate for again my indicators, and just consider what happened. I mean, the values of the of each indicators with the aim of improving them. So if I make a changing, for example, applying different yields, I can see that my indicators will change their value with a 15% higher yield, with a or a different scenario. So I just make some game, changing something inside my study, and so I can see the changing in the values indicators. This one is another sensitivity analysis in which what they changed is packaging. So you can see the comparison of life cycle impacts for our unit when applying different packaging market share. So different scenarios, changing the percent of glass bottle, the percent of bag-in box, the percent of PET, and the beverage carton. I can just look at the changing I have in my environmental performances. Just a look on an OEF examples study, which is which regards retails. This is the technical secretariat that are verifying the study. So you can see there are 6 retailers, 3 public agencies, 1 LCA consultant. Why retailers? These are the reason why they have chosen the retails as a sector. First of all, because retailers act as a link between a multitude of upstream and downstream markets. Then because there are many turnover inside this kind of sector. And then because there is a close relation to the supply chain partners and the consumers. The unit analysis of this study, I mean the right terminology should be the product portfolio, was activities of retailer as a product provider, for example, taking into account where relevant the life cycle impacts of the product provided over a 1-year time interval. The boundaries of the system was this. They considered production and service provision, logistics, retail place, distribution to the client, use and end of life, and all the support phases which are connected with the first previous ones. Just results of the screening phase. I mean, these are the characteristics of the study, this case study. These are a part of the results achieved. They achieved the results. These are all the indicators, and these are the phases: production, logistics, retain place, distribution, support, use. You can see that if I am interested in climate change, I just I just have to consider that there are all the phases which are included inside this range of values, 40 to 60% of our values. Then if just bring this indicator, climate change, and I want to make an analysis about global warming potential product production, I can see that the activity related to animal products has a big influence on global warming potential. Global warming potential. So maybe I have to concentrate to model this activity properly. And then there is a responsibility and value chain, and these are the environment. You can see the environmental footprint that are connected with environmental impacts. So producers has a big responsibility on environmental impacts. Then will come transformers, then retailers, and at the end consumers, even if I don't have all the information about consumers and how they use my products. And how the environmental footprint can help policy implementation. I mean, an important phase is the identification of hotspots, because the identification of environmental critical aspects and potential improvement associated with management and technological intervention can be really help the environment and the green market. Then this methodology can help policy measures, because it can promote and drive the changes of consumer attitudes. Then it can help to identify the right communication to give to consumers, public and private one. And then establishing specific roles for retailer would be a great aim to reach. So pull innovation in production and transformation, and push the consumers towards more sustainable habit and diet as regards retails and organization environmental footprint of retailers. And then there is a fair responsibility allocation. I mean, I need to including all the actors in the supply chain, and I need their effort to improve the environmental product of my organization, just thinking of the entire cycle. So actors in supply chain have different economic power and environmental impacts, but they are included inside this virtual and green paths. Supply chain management for a fair value distribution and possibility allocation. And there are more powerful actors and policymakers that should support primary producers that can implement effective mitigation strategies. Just one slide more, which is concerning our calculator. I mean, what we are doing with our project is really useful and is really new. And as you saw, there are only retailer results and copper production, which are participated to the pilot phase. And so I think that our project will be very important, and especially the result we will achieve. So first of all, please be sure you are using the 0.0 version of the calculator and not beta version. I said that because I received some of beta version calculator. So just please just check, and if any, just correct, if you can, the file you sent me with the right one. Another things that I would like to say is that we need to focus on all the process of Edufootprint. I mean the footprint of educational system. And the educational system is not only my school and my building. So I would need to collect all the data that now are not available, just to analyze all the supply chain. I mean that I would need to collect data about food, about products, all the data about what you used inside your labs. I think that maybe you can find this kind of information inside all the builds. I know that is a big effort, but to achieve a higher level, to increase the level of our study of our project, we would need to analyze even and to collect even this kind of data. And then I would like to tell you that I will write an email to each of you because I would like to make another Skype conference like the ones you did with Virginia before me, and so we can talk about all the problems and difficulties you found during the filling of the calculator. And I have some questions to put, and we will try to find a solution about all the data that are not available by now. And I would like to organize this Skype conference within the end of September, or the first 10 days of October, sure, before the meeting in Ljubljana. And then just please write me, answer my email with your possibility and your availability for this Skype conference. So thank you for your attention. I'm sorry for the what happened, but it was not my fault. And we'll see in the future, right? So I can say bye-bye to all of you, and thanks a lot for your comprehension, for your passion. It was a really difficult item to to talk about without any dialogue with you and using only 2 hours. Right? Bye bye to everybody.
Bye. Thank you.